Welcome to the Whistles. I'm your host, Joe Chapin. Today, we are going to be talking about the Detroit Lions, and the Detroit Lions drafted a couple good rookies. But I got the information from a source of mine who wanted to remain anonymous because he is a friend. But a lot of times in the scouting community, if you get your name out there, you won't be trusted with certain information. So we kind of had to level it out as the NFC Scout. So we'll get to that in a minute. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Like this right now. We're gonna give you great insight on your football team, any Detroit sport. We are gonna give you insight. I got connections to a lot of people, so we're gonna have interviews coming soon. So subscribe to the channel today, and we will keep you entertained. Now, in pertaining to what I was talking about with this NFC Scout and what I asked him, we have all heard and saw people praising Sam LaPorta. And Sam LaPorta at Iowa was one of my favorite players because even though his offense absolutely stunk, they were absolutely god awful. He was a pretty damn good player, and he was 14th all time in Iowa receiving history. So that tells you everything you need to know about Sam LaPorta because his quarterback, Spencer Petras, might have been the worst quarterback in the Power Five. So when you talk about Sam LaPorta and you look at his comparables that I'm going to be someone compared him to, and the stats, you got to keep that in mind. So I'm going to read this verbatim from the NFC Scout that I talked to. He's an NFC Scout, and he works for a really good organization that drives extremely well. So this was his quote. I'm not entirely sure how Sam LaPorta went under the radar like he has, but Detroit got a great one. Stop. He went under the radar simply because of the offense that he played on, and the offense that he played on was getting outscored by their defense. So when you talk about going under the radar, typically Iowa tight ends go under the radar. Now there's one tight end that went in particular that went pretty high in the draft named TJ Hawkinson. And that happens, but you usually like a guy like George Kittle, he went in like the fourth round, so it didn't really matter. But a lot of these under the radar type guys can be really crucial. So he says, but Detroit got the great one. It seems like people made an assumption that because the offense was bad, because it was bad, there wasn't any good players. Just not true. So let's stop there. He said he said because the offense was bad, people assume that there wasn't any good players. I feel like this happens a lot in football because people will make an assumption based on the offense being bad that there's no good players. But we saw Charlie Jones go from Iowa and go to Purdue and show out. You can only imagine what Sam LaPorta would have done if he went to North Carolina to play with Drake May, or he went to USC to play with Caleb Williams, or he went to um, Alabama to play with Bryce Young. Those are players that could really make someone better, and I'd be intrigued to see what he can even do with a guy like JJ McCarthy at Michigan, because obviously his quarterback was one of the worst in the Power Five. So we go on. I'm gonna read it again so people get it, but I know he goes, I imagine he goes, if my team had a need for tight end, I imagine this is who we would have picked. I know Lions fans are familiar with TJ Hawkinson, but Laporta is more comparable to George Kittle than Hawkinson. I think that this kid is destined to be a star tight end in this league. Now I'm gonna read it again for people that it got jumbled up because I was trying to explain what he was trying to say in this short quote. But it says, I'm not entirely sure how Sam LaPorta went under the radar like he has, but Detroit got a great one. It seems like people made an assumption that because the offense was bad, there wasn't any good players. Just not true. If my team had a need for tight end, I imagine this is who we would have picked. I know Lions fans are familiar with TJ Hawkinson, but LaPorta is more comparable to George Kittle than Hawkinson. I think the kid is destined to be a star tight end in this league quickly and soon. So when you hear that, you instantly get excited because this kid could become a star. And if you watch the Detroit Lions last year, the production they got out of the tight end group after TJ Hawkinson was traded was pretty remarkable. I mean, you've seen guys like Shane Zylstra catching touchdowns, Brock Wright catching touchdowns. You can only imagine what a guy with Sam LaPorta's athleticism and speed and run after the catch ability would do in this offense, especially since Sam LaPorta has never really had a quarterback like Jared Goff that can get him the ball in the 5 to 6 yard range where he can do run after the catch. I think that's where this connection could be deadly, because if you have a quarterback that can get the player the ball in an accurate way and a 3 yard out or 4 yard out going up the middle, I think that could be absolutely crucial for this Detroit Lions team. So you're probably asking, and I'm going to get to it right now, what were Sam LaPorta's stats compared to George Kittle at Iowa? And Sam LaPorta absolutely just destroyed any of George Kittle's stats besides touchdowns. Now you can't look at touchdowns for these two and make a comparable statement, because there's just no way you can compare the stats, because LaPorta had more receptions than George Kittle at Iowa. He had more yards than George Kittle at Iowa. George Kittle had more touchdowns at Iowa than Sam LaPorta. And if you're gonna tie it together, all you have to do is look at this. C.J. Beathard was the quarterback for George Kittle when he was at Iowa. Spencer Petras was a quarterback for Sam LaPorta at Iowa. C.J. Beathard went on to play with the 49ers. He was a backup quarterback for the 49ers, and he was pretty decent backup at that. And Spencer Petras has no shot to become a backup quarterback in the NFL. He's not even a good starter in college. So when you look at the touchdowns, obviously George Kittle is going to have the better touchdown ratio because of the quarterback he played with. And Spencer Petras, the only way he could get completions is throwing short. So if you're looking at a comparable, like Jared Goff is way better than Spencer Petras, we know that. But it's short game wise, Jared Goff is really good at passing in short passing lanes. So if he can connect with Sam LaPorta, and Sam LaPorta is able to get upfield and get run after the catch, that could be very, very crucial for the Lions team, because now you're going to have two weapons that come in the middle, meaning Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam LaPorta. That would be absolutely dynamic, because at some point, someone's going to get tripped up in coverage, and they're going to make the wrong read, and someone's going to get wide open. I know for a fact that, us Lions fans, we've been watching this team. And we watched Eric Ebron come in here. And we watched TJ Hawkinson come here. And we had high expectations for these guys. But when you look at TJ Hawkinson, you look at Eric Ebron, there's not really comparable to Sam LaPorta. I think Sam LaPorta is a better player after the catch. I think he can catch the ball at a good rate. He didn't have a really high drop percentage, so that's better than Ebron. And TJ Hawkinson, he was more of a guy that was going to be a red zone threat more than anything. And I think that the comparable that this scout made to George Kittle is more comparable, because I think they're both good players after getting the catch and running. So that's something that you need to look at. And when you look at this from a broad spectrum, yeah, we've been burned by the tight end before. We know that. But when you look at Sam LaPorta, he has a legitimate shot to be a superstar in this league, because when you look at him and you watch some of his tape from Iowa, I know it's difficult to watch because Spencer Petras is so freaking bad. But when you watch it, like, he got a lot of run after the catch. He got a lot of catches where he caught the ball from like 3-4 yards away from line of scrimmage, and he got a 10-yard gain. And it became so apparent that, like, there were teams that were literally triple teaming him, and he was still getting 6-7 yard catches. So that just tells you everything you need to know about Sam LaPorta. And with the offense that Sam LaPorta is going to be in, where there's so many other weapons, that could open up lanes for Sam LaPorta to become a better tight end. So this is number one. This is the most perfect spot for Sam LaPorta, because he's going to have weapons on the outside that can kind of open up the middle of the field for him. Because if Jahmyr Gibbs is coming out of the backfield and Sam LaPorta is going up the middle, there's going to be a point where the linebacker that's covering, the guy coming out of the backfield or the tight end is going to have to make a choice. And he's going to have to make a choice and hope that the safety behind him is helping him in coverage. And oftentimes when that happens, there could be a lapse in coverage, and Sam LaPorta is running free for a touchdown for 60 yards, just off a 20-yard pass because of the run after the catch. That's where Sam LaPorta is going to be the best for the Detroit Lions. And I think that's something that you need to know about this team and about Sam LaPorta being drafted, because I believe that Sam LaPorta, when you watch his tape at Iowa, he was so critical on third downs. And when you look at some of the third downs on with the Detroit Lions last year, there was times where, the tight ends left some to be desired, the running backs left some to be desired, and I think they can get better on third down. So this is a big pickup, and I think that Sam LaPorta could be the tight end that we thought TJ Hawkinson was going to be and Eric Ebron was going to be. But it was interesting to hear his commentary on the comparable he made to George Kittle. I didn't really think about that in my perspective. I thought, more like maybe he could be a TJ Hawkinson, maybe he could be like a guy like that. But George Kittle is a legit great player, and the size advantage is not really big. Sam LaPorta is about 30 pounds heavier, so he's got a little bit more thump than George Kittle did coming out of college. But if you're a Lions fan, this is a great time because you had a great draft. You picked up Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round, and he's going to be electric. I'll have another video on Jahmyr Gibbs. I asked him about Jahmyr Gibbs, so I'm going to have another video on that, so subscribe below. You picked up Brian Branch, who's going to learn under Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You picked up Hendon Hooker. You picked up Broderick Martin, who I think is going to be really, really good. I'll have a video on him, too, before we get to the season. But this is a great time for the Detroit Lions because I think that you actually have a general manager who can make the great picks that help you win. And some picks that you think are like, oh, it's just a tight end, it's a luxury pick. Some of these picks are huge, massively huge to the team, and they could add a dimension to an offense that is already a top 5 offense and give it more power and oomph. And that's exactly what I think we are going to see with Sam LaPorta. I will see you in the next video. I'll do a video on Jahmyr Gibbs because I did get his opinion on Jahmyr Gibbs, and I want to give that to you in a separate video, probably tomorrow. So stay tuned to the channel and subscribe below, and I'll give you that tomorrow. If anything breaks in the meantime, like Teddy Bridgewater signed with the Detroit Lions, I will break in and give you that too. But just subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you entertained, and I will see you in the next video.